What do a Beatles comeback, a doomed cruise ship, and a revolutionary leader all have in common? November 30th, 1994. Let's dive into the stories behind this unforgettable day, starting with a moment that rocked the music world. On this day in 1994, the Beatles released Live at the BBC, their first album in over 25 years. For fans, it was like Christmas had come early. This wasn't just an album, it was a time machine, taking listeners back to the band's early days when Beatlemania was just getting started. Why was this album such a big deal? By 1994, of course, the Beatles had already become legends. Well, the band had broken up in 1970, leaving a void that nothing really could fill. Live at the BBC gave fans a glimpse into the magic that made them a success. Most recorded at their live performances at the BBC between 1963 and 1965. What made these recordings particularly special was their raw energy. Playing rock and roll covers and cracking jokes with the BBC hosts. Highlights included their versions of Ray Charles' I Got a Woman and Buck Cherry's Johnny Be Good, showing how deeply they were influenced by American rock and blues. For diehard fans, there were 30 tracks that had never been released before. The release wasn't just about nostalgia. It marked the start of a Beatles revival. The following year, they would dominate the charts once again with their anthology series, which included even more unreleased recordings and interviews. It's proof that their music was, and still is, timeless. Moving over to the seas, a luxury cruise turned into a nightmare. The Achille Lauro was once a symbol of glamour, but on November 30th, 1994, the ship met a tragic end. It caught fire off the coast of Somalia on its way to South Africa. Over 900 passenger and crew were on board when flames engulfed the ship. Panic set in as lifeboats were deployed, and nearby ships rushed to assist in rescue efforts. While most people survived, 4 lives were lost in the chaos. The Achille Lauro wasn't just any cruise ship. It had a controversial and storied past. In 1985, it made headlines when Palestinian terrorists hijacked it, taking passengers hostage. Tragically, an elderly American passenger was killed during the ordeal, making the ship infamous. Fast forward to 1994, and the fire marked the final chapter of the cursed ship. Witnesses described the fire as spreading so fast that it was impossible to contain. The ship burned for days before finally sinking to the ocean floor, leaving behind only memories of its existence. And finally, history was being made over in Nepal. On November 30th, 1994, Man Mohan Adhikary was sworn in as the first communist premier. For a country ingrained in monarchy and tradition, this was nothing short of revolutionary. Adhikary had become a symbol of hope for many of Nepal's citizens. His leadership marked a dramatic shift in the country's political landscape, challenging the dominance of royalist and centrist parties. What set Adhikary apart was his down-to-earth personality. He was known for his humility, often riding a bicycle instead of using a motorcade. His priorities included land reform, education, and addressing the growing economic divide in the country. Adhikary's rise to power wasn't without its challenges. Nepal's political system was highly fragmented. His government faced constant opposition. Despite this, his time in office laid the groundwork for future leftist movements in Nepal. While his tenure was short, lasting less than a year, it showcased the growing demand for political reform in Nepal. Adhikary's legacy lives on as a pioneer who challenged the status quo. And that was November 30th, 1994. Which story stood out to you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos about what happened 30 years ago.